Hello and welcome to Asia Calling, your window on Asia. In today's program, Muslims return home after race riots in Myanmar. Also, a life-changing taxi service for women by women in India. And empowering domestic workers in Hong Kong through photography. Welcome to the program. I'm Rebecca Hinchke. Seven Muslims have been jailed for their role in religious clashes in Myanmar in March. One man was jailed for 34 years for killing a monk. At least 43 people, mostly Muslims, died in the violence that erupted after an argument at a Muslim-owned shop. But so far, no Buddhists have been convicted in connection with the deadly clashes. And an atmosphere of anti-Muslim sentiments continue to pervade much of Myanmar. But as David Granbau reports, some of those who were displaced are now returning home to a divided community.
About 7,000 Muslims and Buddhists who were displaced by the violence in Meikhtila have returned to their homes. But despite their return, this community remains divided. Thidala and her family are back on the block they've lived at for most of their lives. They spent more than a month in a stadium that was turned into a shelter for Muslims displaced by the riots that tore apart Meikhtila. The family fled their home during the first 3 days of rioting that started on the 20th of March. It started with a quarrel in a gold shop between two Buddhist customers and the Muslim owners. Soon after the argument, a Buddhist monk was killed, sparking further unrest across Burma. Buddhist monks were involved in the violence that saw Muslims hacked and burned on the streets. A Buddhist nationalist movement led by monks, calling themselves 969, spearheaded the anti-Muslim sentiments through hate speech and propaganda. The anti-Muslim violence killed at least 43 people and displaced nearly 13,000 Muslims and Buddhists. Muslims were outnumbered, suffered higher casualties, and most, if not all, stayed in shelters through the month of April because it was not safe to return to their neighborhoods. But now, Muslims and Buddhists whose houses were not destroyed have left the shelters and returned home. There are soldiers and police across the city. Special security posts have been set up in neighborhoods where Muslims live. But while the government is taking steps to keep the peace, relationships between the Buddhists and Muslims have not returned to normal. Ong Kin has lived in Meikhtila his entire life. He says he has Muslim friends, but since the riots, their relationship has been strained. There are people who say they're getting along with their Muslim and Buddhist neighbours, the same as they did before the riots, but those stories seem to be more the exception than the norm. The Datla and Ong Kin's families make sure to buy their food from shops owned by someone from the same religion as them. The government says it will replace all of the houses that were destroyed in the violence, but little has been rebuilt. Those who do not have houses to return to remain in camps. In Meikhtila, communal tensions still run deep. A state of emergency is still in place and will be for the next few months.